Set in a small mountain town in Norway, a man named Niels Dickman works as a snowplow driver. One day, he prepares to attend an annual ceremony where he is about to receive an award as a model citizen alongside his wife. At the same time, at the airport, Niels' son, Ingvar, is still busy working in the baggage section, which prevents him from joining the celebration. After finishing his shift, Ingvar heads to the locker room, but suddenly two armed men force him into a car, where his co-worker Finn is already being held captive. During the ride, they inject Ingvar with illegal drugs. In that tense moment, Finn manages to break free and jumps out of the moving vehicle. The kidnappers immediately open fire, but Finn manages to escape. Back at home, Niels returns after receiving his award, recognized for his dedication and hard work. Despite the long day, he continues working through the night without rest. The next morning, the kidnappers leave Ingvar's unconscious body at a train station. But he is not unconscious. Ingvar is already dead. The news devastates Niels and his wife, especially when the police claim that Ingvar died from a drug overdose. Niels insists that his son was not a drug addict, but the police dismiss his claims, saying that parents often do not truly know their children. As a result, they decide not to investigate the case any further. This response deeply affects Niels' wife, making her believe that they may have misunderstood their own son all along, especially since they had always been too busy with work. But Niels refuses to accept that. He is certain that Ingvar was not involved with drugs. This is where it starts. This is in order of disappearance. After the funeral, overwhelmed by guilt, Niels reaches a breaking point and considers doing the unthinkable. But just before he can pull the trigger, Finn suddenly appears and stops him. It turns out Finn has been hiding in Niels' office all along. Finn confesses that Ingvar's death is his fault. He reveals that he works for a drug trafficking syndicate, responsible for transporting shipments that come through the airport, while Ingvar had no involvement at all. Finn also admits that he stole one package of drugs, which led the syndicate to believe that he and Ingvar were working together. Hearing this, Niels is filled with anger and demands information about the people behind it. Unfortunately, Finn only recognizes one name, a man called Yappa. Armed with this lead, Niels leaves for the city without telling his wife, determined to track Yappa down. Once he manages to get Yappa alone, Niels reveals that he is Ingvar's father. Realizing the situation could turn dangerous, Yappi tries to intimidate him and urges him to walk away. At first, Niels seems hesitant, but in a sudden burst of violence, he attacks Yappi. After being beaten badly, Yappi finally admits that he was ordered by a man named Ronaldo to eliminate Ingvar by making it look like an overdose. But even after getting the answer he came for, Niels shows no mercy and kills him. He then disposes of the body by wrapping it in wire and throwing it into a waterfall. Elsewhere, a mafia boss named Grieving is preparing to take his son Rune to school. That morning, Rune does not want to go, claiming that he has been bullied. Grieving pushes him to stand his ground and not show weakness. But in the middle of that moment, one of his men interrupts with news that Yappi has gone missing. The information clearly irritates Grieving, especially since he does not want business matters brought up in front of his son. Back at home, Niels returns only to be met with his wife's frustration after leaving without a word. That same night, he modifies his weapon and quietly leaves again. This time, he is going after Ronaldo, and when he finally finds him, Niels wastes no time and launches into another brutal attack. After overpowering him, Niels forces Ronaldo to explain what really happened to his son. Under pressure, Ronaldo reveals that the order to kill Ingvar and Finn came from a man named Strike, someone who also works at the airport. As far as he knows, the syndicate believed Ingvar and Finn had stolen from them, but even after hearing the truth, Niels shows no mercy. He kills Ronaldo and disposes of the body the same way as before, throwing it into a waterfall. The next day, Grieving is seen arguing with his ex-wife over custody of their son. She believes he is a terrible father, and the tension between them quickly escalates. Their argument is suddenly cut short when one of Grieving's men arrives with news that Ronaldo has also gone missing. The update clearly frustrates Grieving, although he keeps his reaction under control. Meanwhile, Niels tracks down Strike, the name Ronaldo had given him. He carefully follows him while avoiding suspicion, then suddenly cuts him off on the road. Niels approaches and forces Strike to change direction. The moment Strike lets his guard down, Niels attacks. He tries to get answers about who owns the drugs Strike is transporting, but Strike refuses to talk. With no other way forward, Niels kills him as well. Now left without any leads, Niels vents his frustration by scattering all the drug packages Strike was carrying across the snow. By the following day, Graven is furious after hearing that Strike has disappeared, along with 15 kilograms of narcotics. He becomes convinced that someone is systematically targeting his operation. In his mind, the only group bold enough to do this in his territory is the Serbian mafia, a group he had previously allowed some freedom. Acting on that suspicion, Graven orders his men to kidnap one of the Serbian members. Two of his men carry out the job, capturing a man who had just received a shipment. During a brutal interrogation, the man refuses to give any information. When Graven arrives and sees that he is getting nowhere, his anger takes over. Without hesitation, he kills the captive on the spot. Back at his now empty home, Niels finds a blank letter left behind by his wife. In that moment, he realizes she has truly left him. The loss only deepens his desperation, pushing him to search even harder for the person responsible for his son's death. With no other options, he decides to seek help from his brother. His brother Egil, known as Wingman, is a former member of the mafia once led by Greven's father. When he hears about his nephew's death, Wingman immediately reaches out to his old contacts to gather information. After a series of calls, he finally uncovers the truth. Ingvar and Finn had taken a bag of drugs that belonged to Graven, making Graven the one ultimately behind Ingvar's death. Hearing this, Niels becomes determined to settle things with Graven. But Wingman warns him that Graven is not someone to underestimate. He is smart, dangerous, and now fully in control of his father's empire. In fact, it was that very reason that made Wingman walk away from the life. He urges Niels to let it go, but Niels refuses. After everything he has already done, after taking down Japa, Ronaldo, and Strike, he feels there is no turning back. Seeing how far Niels is willing to go, Wingman decides to help, even though he knows the risks. He arranges for a hired killer and gives Niels specific instructions to make sure the job is done right. After gathering the money, Niels meets the hitman, a man known as Chinese. But without realizing it, he makes a critical mistake. He hands over all the money and even reveals his own name. The next day, instead of carrying out the job, Chinese goes straight to Graven and sells him the information. He tells Graven that the man who hired him is named Dickman. Hearing that name, Graven immediately connects it to Wingman, one of his father's former men. Even so, he has no intention of letting Chinese walk away with the money. After getting what he needs, Graven orders his men to kill him. Not long after, Graven and his men track down Wingman and take him with them. Along the way, Graven pressures him to reveal who in his family might have a problem with him. But Wingman stays silent, choosing to protect Niels by taking the blame himself. He claims that everything was his doing. He says he was the one who killed Ronaldo, Japa, and Strike. He even insists that he hired Chinese to go after Graven and got rid of the drugs. The confession only fuels Graven's anger. Without hesitation, he kills Wingman on the spot. Elsewhere, the police discover the body of a Serbian mafia member hanging from a mountain marker. It turns out the man is the son of a powerful boss known as Papa. From a distance, Papa sees his son's body and is overcome with rage, vowing to take revenge. A few days after burying Wingman, Niels begins closely observing Graven's daily routine. From this surveillance, he identifies a new opportunity to strike back by targeting something far more personal, Graven's own son. At the same time, at Papa's headquarters, preparations are being made to send his son's body back to Serbia. Convinced that Graven is responsible, Papa orders his men to retaliate. He believes their agreement over territory has already been honored. But now that his only son is dead, he sees no reason to hold back any longer. He sends two of his men to keep watch on Graven's son at school. Meanwhile, Graven realizes that killing the Serbian man may have been a mistake. He gathers his crew to fix the situation. One of his men suggests making peace by offering an apology along with a sacrifice from their side. Soon after, one of Graven's men delivers the package to Papa, but the gesture does nothing to satisfy him. What Papa wants is not an apology, but a life in return. Without hesitation, he kills the messenger. Back at the school, Niels puts his plan into action. Disguising himself as one of Graven's men, he successfully takes Graven's son. However, two of Papa's men spot the abduction and immediately give chase. Just as the situation turns dangerous, a passing truck blocks the road, giving Niels the chance to escape. Afterward, Papa's men are forced to report their failure, promising to track down the kidnapper as soon as possible. As they prepare to dispose of the body of Grevin's man, his phone suddenly rings. The call is from Grevin himself. With clear satisfaction, they inform him that his man has been taken care of. Hearing this only adds to Grevin's frustration, especially when he learns that his own son has also been kidnapped. He orders his men to act immediately. At that moment, his ex-wife shows up, furious over their son's disappearance, shouting at him in a language he does not understand. Already pushed to the edge, Grevin lashes out in anger. That night, Niels brings Graven's son, Rune, back to his home. Even though Rune quickly realizes that Niels is not one of his father's men, he shows no fear at all. Instead, he remains calm. When it is time to sleep, Rune asks for a bedtime story. Niels is caught off guard since he has nothing to tell. After a moment, he decides to read from the manual of the snowplow he operates. Surprisingly, Rune becomes interested in the story and even starts to like the idea of the machine itself. The next morning, a school janitor sells important information to Grevin, revealing that Rune was taken in a vehicle marked with the name Dickman. After receiving his payment, the man is immediately killed on Grevin's orders. Learning that his son's kidnapper is not connected to the Serbian mafia brings Grevin a sense of relief, since it makes the situation more straightforward. As he and his men begin searching for the vehicle, Niels contacts him and demands that he come alone that night if he wants to see Rune alive. At the same time, Papa and his men are also searching for Rune near the ski grounds. While Niels and Rune are driving the snowplow, a coworker passes by and warns Niels that several men in suits are waiting at his house. This immediately alerts Niels that Grevin has discovered his identity. At Niels' empty home, Grevin's men find a photo of him near his snowplow and quickly head toward his workplace. Unbeknownst to Grevin, one of his own men secretly betrays him by informing Papa's crew about his location, likely out of resentment after seeing one of their own sacrifice. Meanwhile, Niels has already anticipated Grevin's arrival and prepares himself at his worksite. When he notices Rune stepping outside, he quickly brings him back in and hides him before moving into position below the building. Not long after, Grevin and his men arrive. Just as Niels lines up his shot and prepares to act, one of Grevin's men ambushes him first. Niels is dragged in front of Grevin, who demands to know where his son is, but Niels refuses to say anything. At that exact moment, Papa's men storm in, and a violent shootout erupts between the two groups. In the middle of the chaos, Niels uses a logging machine to cut down a tree, lifts it, and drops it directly onto the vehicle Grevin plans to escape in, trapping it in place. This creates the perfect opening for Papa, who immediately takes the shot at Grevin. Seeing Grevin collapse and appear lifeless, Niels decides to leave the scene using his snowplow, unaware that Papa has quietly climbed aboard with him. Soon after, the police arrive at the scene. To everyone's surprise, Grevin is still alive, just long enough to ask the officers to pass along a final message to his ex-wife before he dies. Not long after, Rune emerges from hiding and is found by the police. As for Niels and Papa, the two men come to an understanding. Both have lost a son, both are exhausted, and in the end, neither of them truly had a reason to fight each other. The story closes on an unexpected note, as a parachutist accidentally lands directly into the spinning blades of Niels' snowplow. So the moral of the story is, if your coworker steals drugs, just call in sick because somehow it always turns into a full mafia war with snowplows and random parachute accidents.